Hey people, I've just read online on the BBC website that Saudi Arabia has beheaded a Sri Lankan maid for infanticide, supposedly killing her child. Um, what's new? Uh, this is absolutely disgusting. Uh, like this, and related to the subject, human rights in Saudi Arabia. First of all, even if she was guilty, and I have to say I have doubts about that, because being a woman, she absolutely will not have received a fair trial. In fact, being a woman and being a foreign citizen, she will not have received a fair trial. But even if she was guilty, um, I think beheading is a barbaric punishment. If she was guilty, she should have been punished, but with a custodial sentence. But Saudi Arabia's legal system is absolutely flawed on the grounds it discriminates against women, and this method of punishment is something that could rival the Taliban's methods of punishment. It's utterly medieval, um, and quite sickening, really. And you know, she isn't the first foreign maid to have been on death row or received the death penalty in Saudi Arabia. I know Indonesian maids have been caught up. And you know, I'd just like to say some of the Arab states, their treatment of foreign workers is nothing short of abysmal, and in many cases, effectively slave labour. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, have a very, very dirty track record in terms of suppressing unions, in terms of treating maids, and in the case of men, dock workers, construction workers, absolutely abysmally. And this is shameful. These are some of the world's wealthiest per capita countries. In fact, a Gulf state, Qatar, is the world's wealthiest country. But behind all that luxury is a world of exploitation and slave labour. And this is just shameful. And the idea that someone could be beheaded in the year 2013 is sickening. But there's another aspect to this that I'd like to point out, and that's my country, the United Kingdom, and our slavishly close relationship to Saudi Arabia. You know, since Arab Spring, we've been very vocal in condemning oppressive regimes, and rightly so. I believe we should condemn oppressive regimes. And we'll even question China, even though we have trade with China on their human rights abuses. But for some reason, when it comes to Saudi Arabia, we are, if not silent, then we are far too passive. This regime can equal Iran for brutality. If not, then it's worse. Yet we condemn one regime and tolerate another. And why is this? Well, the answer is obvious. It's for strategic reasons. Saudi Arabia is a key military ally in the region. It's a powerful country, a powerful regional power broker. And I'm not so naive to suggest that we should not have any relations to Saudi Arabia, but what we should be doing is absolutely be more consistent in our attacks on tyrannical regimes, and this is one of the very worst in the world. Let's not gloss it over. It's appalling. And I do think it's shameful that we haven't been more consistent in this. I think it's shameful that we have effectively turned a blind eye to what's going on in the likes of the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Even to the point, I believe last year it was shameful that the Queen invited Bahraini princes, I believe, to a state banquet whilst Bahraini protesters were being gunned down in the streets. That was nothing short of disgraceful, and our royal family should have been ashamed of that for making that move. No, I'm not stupid. I am not proposing that we make a huge I'm not proposing we actively seek confrontation for the sake of it, but what we do have to do, what we should learn from Arab Spring, if anything, is that we have to be consistent on this. We can't be hypocrites. We can't back one regime and then condemn another. Now, I've no problem with us condemning Iran, because Iran does have a brutal track record. But we have to be consistent and not gloss over our allies just because they're allies, or for the sake of trade or diplomacy. We have to be consistent, and we have to condemn. This was barbaric. We have to be consistent in this regard. And I can understand Arab anger towards the UK for this inconsistency. You know, Arab victims of torture of these oppressive regimes have a right to be angry at the UK for our support of those regimes. Let's just be honest about it. Now, I know the world's not a simple place, and we can't simply blacklist every country that has a brutal human rights record. We can't simply not do deals with them, not do trade with them. But what we should do is have a working relationship where we're saying to these people, look, we know what goes on, and we're going to condemn it. We know we have trade, we know we have diplomatic ties, but we are going to stand by our values and condemn this. And for the record, our own record isn't spotless. I mean, so God knows we don't behead people, but I've condemned our forced labour programs before in our welfare policies. I believe we have to absolutely abolish that as well, in correlation with condemning human rights abuses. And I'm not comparing this at all, but I'm just saying we can't be hypocrites. And right now we can be accused of hypocrisy, because we are, on one hand, condemning regimes like Iran, and rightly so. On the other hand, we're turning a blind eye to the likes of Saudi Arabia, which is, and I don't believe we've been vocal enough on Thailand either, for their lèse-majesté laws. I have very strong views on that. From what I know, British diplomats have said nothing. Now, I might be wrong about that. There may be things going on behind closed doors, so I shouldn't point blank say nothing's happening. But it is fair to say there's an inconsistency whereby some regimes are publicly condemned and others might be a quiet word behind closed doors. I don't think that's good enough. I think we have to be a lot more vocal. Because a quiet word behind closed doors won't be seen on the ground. So Arab people who see this hypocrisy, they won't care about a quiet word behind closed doors. They'll want to see evidence that we are prepared to respect Arab people and respect the legacy of Arab Spring, which, by the way, remains complex. It's not a straight cut thing. I might well make a video specifically about Arab Spring, because it isn't a clear cut situation at all, and we've learned that in the last year. Anyway, this video, I just like to express my utter disgust at what the regime in Saudi Arabia is doing. Their ongoing brutal treatment of women, their brutal treatment of labourers, and the death penalty is bad enough, but to have this method, decapitation, we had that in this country. The last execution through that method in the UK was 1747, Lord love it. I just consider it a brutal, savage, medieval, anti-human punishment. And like I say, if she was guilty, she should be punished, but that's just absolutely revolting. And we can be doing and saying a lot more than what we are. Maybe it's early days, maybe the Foreign Office will come out with some statement, but we need to be a lot more vocal about this and put a hell of a lot more pressure on the Saudi regime. It's a powerful country, but we're a powerful country as well, and we are in a position to say something. And another point, King Abdullah, who by the way is an absolute monarch, which is a form of dictatorship, in recent months he's been made some modernist, if that's the right word, sentiments regarding women drivers. Okay, that's a good development. But he is in a position to be a lot more vocal on some of the things that goes on within his kingdom. He is a custodian of the two holy mosques, which makes him arguably the most powerful figure in the Islamic world. Although Islam doesn't quite have a hierarchy in the way the Catholic Church does, but nevertheless is a very powerful position. He's an absolute monarch and he wields immense power. The Forbes power list regularly features King Abdullah in their top 10 most powerful figures in the world. In fact, he's higher ranked than the British Prime Minister. So he's a very powerful individual. And I believe a lot more pressure should be put on him to do something about this abysmal situation. Clearly the Saudi legal system isn't fair. Clearly it discriminates against women. Clearly, if those women are foreign domestic workers, they're doomed, I'm afraid. And that's basically what I have to say. It's shameful that we turn a blind eye, but it's also shameful that this happens in the 21st century. In conclusion, shame on Saudi Arabia.